Hi everyone, to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making a delicious breakfast pita, perfect for any time of the day. I love to serve this for brunch because it's going to be made with eggs and pasturma and lots of cheese. It has so much flavor, a flaky phyllo crust, flaky buttery phyllo crust. This is so easy to make yet so delicious. Let's get started. So we're going to begin with 1 onion. I have a red onion today, but you can use any onion in this recipe. Finely chop it and go ahead and add it to a pan with a few tablespoons of olive oil. 3 or 4 are fine. You could add a little more if you'd like, and a little pinch of salt, and cook it over medium heat until it turns nice and soft and slightly golden. That's going to take about 8 minutes or so. In the meantime, go ahead and thinly slice some scallions. You're going to need about 3 or 4 scallions for this recipe. Thinly slice them, then go ahead and add them to the onions and just heat them until they're nice and soft. It's going to take a minute or two. Take it off of the heat and set the pan aside. Now it's time to grate some cheese. There's a couple of cheeses that are going in here. Feta cheese, of course, and then a cheese that's nice and melty. I'm using Kasseri cheese today. It's a Greek cheese that's soft. It's very nutty and delicious, a little bit mild. It's definitely more flavorful than mozzarella. You can use mozzarella if that's all you have, but I suggest you use something with more flavor like a Gruyere cheese. You could even use a cheddar if you prefer, like a white cheddar for this, a Graviera, Kefalo Graviera, or your favorite cheese. Gouda is nice in this too because it's slightly tangy. There's no measurement for this. It's going to go on top in the end. It's going to make it look like a pizza, so you put as much as your heart desires. Go ahead and grate that using a box grater. The trick to shredding cheese easily is to either freeze it for 10-15 minutes or take it out of the refrigerator and grate it while it's still cold. Softer cheeses do tend to stick to the grater, so keep that in mind. And then an easy way to clean things that you've grated cheese on, or even that you've eaten cheese on, like on a plate or a fork or something, is cold water. Use cold water and it'll just slide right off. I don't know if you ever knew that or not. Now, next, let's move on. Next, I have 2 roasted red peppers from the jar. I'm just going to go ahead and finely chop those or dice those up, set those aside. Then in this big bowl over here, I'm just going to add 6 eggs. I'm going to season them with a little bit of salt, pepper, and like half a teaspoon or so of oregano. I'm using dried oregano, but you can use thyme if you prefer. Whisk that all together with half a cup of milk. If you want it a little more rich and creamy, you could add some heavy whipping cream, some half and half, sour cream, whatever your heart desires. Whisk that all together and then set it aside. Now we're going to layer our phyllo into our baking pan. I have a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, and I'm just going to grease that with a little bit of butter. I'm using unsalted butter that I just added a little pinch of salt to it. You can use salted butter for this. I melted 4 ounces of butter, which is a stick. I think that's about 113 grams or so. And then I just put a little pinch of salt in there. But like I said, you can use salted butter if you prefer. And I'm not using the whole pack of phyllo. This is a pack of number 4 phyllo. That's the one that's usually used to make baklava and pastries. We're using about 10 to 12 sheets. The rest, wrap it up and cover it with slightly dampened kitchen towel and either refrigerate it for another recipe or do like I did and later on make some Nutella rolls for the freezer. I'll tell you how I did those in a little bit. Just go ahead and layer each sheet. Again, we're using 10 to 12 sheets. It's up to you. I would use 10 so I could have 2 more sheets for the Nutella rolls because I think that's enough. Anyway, go ahead and layer them in the baking pan, drizzling some butter, some melted butter in between each sheet. Now it's time to just put all the things for the mixture together. So in the eggs, by now the onion mixture should have cooled. Go ahead and add the onions to the eggs and then add the roasted red peppers and then the feta cheese, about 4 ounces of feta cheese. But like I said, we don't measure cheese. You add as much as you like in there. Mix that all up gently. Do not break the cheese. And then go ahead and pour that into the pan on over the top layer of phyllo. At this point, I like to add some pasturma. Pasturma is cured beef. It's commonly used in dishes in Greece and Turkey, parts of the Middle East, Armenia. It's so flavorful. Packs so much flavor because usually it's seasoned with paprika and other herbs, fenugreek. It has a very strong fenugreek flavor and it's delicious if you ask me. You just need a little bit, about 4 ounces or so. Go ahead and separate the slices. You could just put them on top like that, or you can thinly slice them. It's up to you, like into little strips or something like that. Go ahead and put the pasturma over the eggs and then you top it with that grated Kasseri cheese or whatever cheese you're using. It's going to look like a pizza at this point. And I have a few slices of pasturma left over. I'm just going to go ahead and put those on top. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to bake on the center rack for 45 minutes. The phyllo all around is going to get nice and golden and crisp. The cheese is going to be melted. It's going to be perfect. Once it comes out of the oven, set it at room temperature and let it rest for about 20 or 30 minutes before you serve it. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to slice and serve. So let it rest. This does taste best at room temperature, if you ask me. While the pita is cooking, you can use up your phyllo rolls like I'm doing. Basically, what I do is I melt another stick of butter, and then I have some Nutella here. You could use your favorite chocolate hazelnut spread. If you don't like chocolate hazelnut spread, use your favorite chocolate spread. If you have some leftover ganache, use that. If by chance you have any pie filling left over, you can use that. Your favorite preserves. The reason I like to do this is because many times if I wrap up my phyllo and I put it in the fridge, I either forget about it or somehow it dries up and then it's really hard to work with. Then all I can make with it is like a portocalo pita or a lemono pita, which utilizes shredded phyllo, and I don't always want to make that. So I prefer to have my freezer well stocked with especially desserts, because I love company and we have friends and family over all the time, and I don't always have time to whip up a dessert. And I prefer to serve homemade things anyway. So I'm going to make these Nutella rolls. Basically, what you do is you take one sheet at a time. I already have a recipe posted for this, so we're just going to go through this really quickly. You take one sheet at a time, drizzle some butter on it, fold it over, drizzle a little more butter on top. Then you take a heaping teaspoon of your favorite chocolate hazelnut spread, put it on the bottom. Fold the sides over, but don't fold them in too much so that way it stays kind of wide. And then you roll it up. It's going to look like a little cigar. Put however many you have. You're going to have maybe about 10 of these, depending on how much phyllo you have. Put them on a baking tray that's lined with parchment paper, and then brush the tops with melted butter. At this point, freeze them. You can freeze them on the tray. Once they're frozen solid, I suggest that you either transfer the little rolls into Ziploc bags or freezer-safe bags or a freezer-safe container, or if you want to leave it in the tray like that, just wrap the tray tightly with plastic wrap so that way it does not absorb freezer odors. And then anytime you have guests over, you can just pull out the tray or a couple of them and warm them in the air fryer or bake them in the oven. I have all of the instructions on my website. I'll post the link down below. Now you have some delicious treats in your freezer. Thank me later. Okay, so my pita has come out of the oven. It took exactly 45 minutes and it smells so delicious. It looks so delicious. It is time for the taste test. Just cut out a slice and put it on a plate. You can garnish the whole pie with some sliced fresh scallions or parsley. It's up to you. Or leave it just the way it is. It doesn't really need anything else. You could serve this as is with a nice side salad and you are good to go. Time for the taste test. That is so delicious. So many textures in there. You have the crispy, buttery phyllo, of course, the crust on the bottom. The eggs are so silky and creamy and good and loaded with flavor. You have the chewy pasturma, which has bold, bold flavors, a little bit of fenugreek in there, and of course the feta, and the cheese is amazing. It almost tastes like half omelet, half pizza. I can't describe it. It's so good. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. Share pictures with me on Facebook and Instagram. I love to see your recreations. If you want to print this recipe out, head on over to the website, www.dimitrasdishes.com. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.